During World War II, Nazi Germany placed enormous emphasis on armored warfare. Tanks were central to early blitzkrieg doctrine, designed to break enemy lines through speed, coordination, and shock. As the war progressed, German tank design shifted toward heavier armor and stronger guns, reflecting the changing nature of the conflict and mounting pressure from Allied industrial power. This chapter covers the main German tank types used between 1939 and 1945, from early light tanks to massive late-war designs that pushed engineering to its limits. Nazi tanks, Panzer I, was a light tank designed mainly for training and early combat use. Armed only with machine guns, it supported early blitzkrieg campaigns in Poland and France. Its weak armor made it obsolete quickly, and most units were later converted or withdrawn. Panzer II was developed as an interim combat tank, while heavier designs were prepared. It carried a 20mm cannon and served in early invasions and reconnaissance roles. As enemy armor improved, it became ineffective and was reassigned or converted to other uses. Panzer 35T was a Czech-built tank taken into German service after occupation. It saw combat in Poland, France, and early Eastern Front battles. Mechanical issues and outdated design limited its long-term use, leading to eventual withdrawal. Panzer 38T was another Czech-designed tank valued for reliability and ease of maintenance. It performed well early in the war, especially during Barbarossa. As armor demands increased, its chassis was repurposed for tank destroyers. Panzer III was designed specifically to fight enemy tanks and formed the backbone of early German armored divisions. Armed with increasingly powerful guns over time, it served across multiple fronts. Eventually outclassed, it was replaced by newer designs. Panzer IV began as an infantry support tank, but evolved into Germany's most versatile armored vehicle. Upgraded with stronger armor and guns, it remained effective throughout the war and served on all major fronts until 1945. Panther was introduced to counter the Soviet T-34 and combined sloped armor with a powerful gun. It proved highly effective in combat, but suffered from mechanical reliability problems. Despite flaws, it became one of Germany's most important tanks. Tiger I was a heavy tank built to dominate armored combat with its powerful 88mm gun. Its armor and firepower were formidable, but high cost and maintenance demands limited production and strategic impact despite battlefield success. Tiger II emphasized extreme armor protection and firepower. It was used mainly in defensive battles late in the war. Excessive weight, fuel shortages, and mechanical failures reduced its operational effectiveness. Maus was a super-heavy tank prototype designed for maximum armor and firepower. Only two were completed and never saw real combat. Its size and logistical impracticality symbolized the limits of late-war German tank design. Assault guns and tank destroyers. Sturmgeschütz III was a turretless assault gun designed to support infantry attacks. Its low silhouette and strong gun made it effective against both fortifications and tanks. It became one of Germany's most produced and successful armored vehicles. Sturmgeschütz IV was developed using the Panzer IV chassis to compensate for production shortages. It filled the same role as the StuG III and proved reliable and effective. Production continued late into the war as demand increased. Sturminfanteriegeschütz 33B mounted a heavy infantry gun for urban and fortified combat. It was used mainly in Stalingrad and later defensive battles. Limited production and specialized role restricted its wider use. Sturmhaubitze 42 was a StuG III variant armed with a 105mm howitzer. It provided heavier fire support against infantry and defenses. Its versatility made it useful in both offensive and defensive operations. Panzerjäger I was an early tank destroyer mounting an anti-tank gun on a Panzer IV chassis. It offered mobile firepower but little protection. Used in early campaigns, it quickly became obsolete. Marder I was an improvised destroyer using captured French chassis with German guns. It filled urgent anti-tank needs on multiple fronts. High profile and thin armor made it vulnerable in combat. Marder II was built on the Panzer II chassis to counter improved enemy tanks. It carried a powerful gun but lacked protection. It served mainly on the Eastern Front before being replaced by better designs. Marder III used the Czech 38T chassis and provided effective long-range anti-tank fire. It was widely used in defensive roles. Its exposed crew compartment reduced survivability under fire. Jagdpanzer IV featured sloped armor and a low silhouette on a Panzer IV chassis. Designed for ambush tactics, it proved effective but faced production challenges and internal debate over its necessity. Jagdpanther combined Panther mobility with a powerful 88mm gun. It was one of the most capable tank destroyers of the war. Mechanical complexity and limited numbers reduced its overall impact. Elefant was a heavy tank destroyer built for long-range combat. Its powerful gun could destroy enemy tanks at great distance. Poor mobility and lack of close defense limited effectiveness, especially early on. Nashorn mounted a powerful 88mm gun on a lightly armored chassis. It excelled at long-range tank destruction, but relied on distance and positioning for survival due to weak protection. Dicker Max was an experimental tank destroyer intended for bunker busting. Only a few were built, and combat use was limited. The project was abandoned in favor of more practical designs. Self-propelled artillery, Wespe, was a light self-propelled howitzer based on the Panzer II chassis. It supported armored divisions with mobile indirect fire, especially on the Eastern Front. Light armor protected the crew, but left it vulnerable to counterfire. Hummel mounted a heavy 150mm howitzer on a hybrid chassis combining Panzer III and IV components. It provided long-range fire support for Panzer units. Limited ammunition capacity required support vehicles nearby. Grill was built on the Czech 38T chassis and armed with heavy infantry guns. It was used mainly to support infantry assaults. High silhouette and limited protection reduced survivability in open combat. Bison I mounted a heavy infantry gun on a Panzer I chassis. It was an early and improvised solution for mobile fire support. Poor mobility and extreme weight imbalance limited its battlefield effectiveness. Bison II improved on the earlier design by using a Panzer II chassis. It offered better mobility but remained cramped and lightly protected. It saw limited service before being replaced by more capable vehicles. Karl Gerät was a massive self-propelled siege mortar designed to destroy heavily fortified targets. It fired enormous shells during sieges such as Sevastopol. Extremely limited mobility restricted its operational use. Sturmpanzer I carried a heavy infantry gun on an open Panzer I chassis. It was intended for close infantry support. Weak protection and mechanical strain made it a short-lived solution. Sturmpanzer II improved mobility by using a lengthened Panzer II chassis. It provided direct fire support to infantry units. Production numbers were low, and its role was soon filled by better designs. Armored personnel carriers and half-tracks, StuG 250 was a light half-track used mainly for reconnaissance and command roles. It carried small infantry teams or equipment and was valued for mobility. Limited armor and capacity restricted its effectiveness in heavy combat. SDKF's 251 was the standard German armored personnel carrier. It transported infantry alongside tanks and supported multiple battlefield roles through numerous variants. Its versatility made it a core vehicle of mechanized units. StuG III 252 was an armored ammunition carrier designed to resupply assault guns. It operated close to the front under fire. Limited production and specialized role reduced its overall impact. SDKF's 253 served as an armored observation vehicle for artillery units. It carried communication equipment to direct fire support. As artillery doctrine evolved, it became less common. Armored cars. SDKFZ 221 was a light armored reconnaissance vehicle armed with a machine gun. It was used early in the war for scouting and security. Light armor made it vulnerable as combat intensity increased. SDKF's 222 was an improved reconnaissance vehicle armed with a 20mm cannon. It offered better firepower against infantry and light vehicles. Widely used early on, it became less effective later in the war. StuG 223 was a command and radio variant of the Armored Car series. Equipped with long-range communications, it coordinated reconnaissance units. Limited armament confined it to support roles. StuG 231 six-wheel version was an early heavy armored car used for long-range patrols. It offered good road speed but poor off-road mobility. It was gradually replaced by 8-wheel designs. SDKF's 231 8-wheel version improved mobility and durability. It served in reconnaissance roles across Europe and North Africa. Its size made concealment difficult in later combat conditions. SDKF's 232 was a radio-equipped variant designed for command and control. It supported reconnaissance units by maintaining communication over long distances. Heavy structure limited agility. SDKF's 233 mounted a short-barreled gun for infantry support. It was used in urban and close combat roles. Low production numbers limited its battlefield presence. SDKF's 234-1 featured a turreted 20mm cannon for reconnaissance missions. It combined speed with light firepower. It saw service mainly in the later stages of the war. SDKF's 234-2 Puma was the most advanced German armored car, armed with a 50mm gun. It combined speed, firepower, and armor. Production was limited by resource shortages. SDKFZ 234-3 was armed with a short-barreled gun for fire support. It assisted infantry and reconnaissance units. Its open design exposed the crew to battlefield threats. SDKFZ 234-4 mounted a powerful anti-tank gun on an armored car chassis. It was intended for ambush tactics. Limited ammunition and exposure reduced its effectiveness. Trucks and transport vehicles. Opel Blitz was the standard German military truck, used for transporting troops and supplies. Reliable and easy to maintain, it served on all fronts. Allied bombing and fuel shortages gradually reduced its availability. Mercedes-Benz L3000 was a heavy-duty transport truck used for logistics and troop movement. It provided good load capacity and durability. Increasing material shortages limited production in later war years. Mercedes-Benz LG3000 was an all-wheel drive variant designed for rough terrain. It improved off-road performance compared to standard trucks. Complex production reduced its widespread deployment. Ford V3000 was produced under license in Germany and became a common military truck. It supported logistics across Europe and the Eastern Front. Simpler construction made it suitable for mass production. Borgward B3000 served as a medium transport truck for supplies and personnel. It was used mainly in rear areas. Like many trucks, it suffered from fuel shortages late in the war. Krupp L2H 43 was a six-wheeled truck valued for off-road mobility. It supported artillery and supply units. Mechanical complexity limited large-scale production. Basing Nag 4500 was a heavy truck used to haul large loads and equipment. Its size allowed significant cargo capacity. Weight and fuel demands restricted its operational flexibility. Magirus S3000 was a versatile truck used for transport and specialized roles. It served across multiple fronts. Production continued despite increasing industrial pressure. Steyr 1500A was an Austrian-designed all-wheel drive truck. It provided excellent mobility in harsh terrain and climates. Limited production numbers reduced its overall impact. Phänomen Granite was a light truck used for communications and transport duties. It offered flexibility and reliability. Its light build restricted heavy hauling tasks. Henschel 33 was an early German military truck widely used before and during the early war years. It supported logistics and engineering units. Many were lost due to wear and combat losses. Artillery prime movers and heavy half-tracks. SDKFZ-6 was a medium half-track used to tow artillery and transport crews. It offered reliable mobility on rough terrain. Limited production and competition from other designs reduced its overall use. SDKFZ-8 was a heavy half-track designed to tow large artillery pieces. It provided strong traction and hauling power. High cost and complex maintenance limited production numbers. SDKF-9, known as FAMO, was the heaviest German half-track. It recovered damaged tanks and moved massive loads. Despite excellent power, fuel consumption and maintenance demands were significant. SDKFZ-10 was a light half-track used to tow smaller guns and carry supplies. It was common in support units. Limited protection made it vulnerable near front lines. SDKF-11 served as a medium artillery tractor and transport vehicle. It filled the gap between light and heavy prime movers. Production numbers remained moderate throughout the war. Engineering and recovery vehicles. Jagdpanzer I was an early recovery vehicle based on the Panzer I chassis. It was used to tow damaged tanks and equipment. Limited power and protection restricted its usefulness as armored vehicles grew heavier. Jagdpanzer III was developed to recover medium tanks under battlefield conditions. It provided better strength and reliability than earlier designs. Its presence helped reduce permanent tank losses during prolonged operations. Jagdpanther was a powerful recovery vehicle built on the Panther chassis. It could tow heavy tanks from the battlefield under fire. Strong performance made it one of Germany's most effective recovery vehicles. Brückenleger IV was a bridge-laying vehicle based on the Panzer IV chassis. It enabled armored units to cross rivers and obstacles quickly. Limited numbers reduced its overall strategic impact. Brückenleger Panther was designed to support heavier armored formations. It carried a larger bridge suitable for Panther and Tiger tanks. Development delays limited operational deployment. Minenräum Panzer III was a mine-clearing vehicle adapted from the Panzer III. It used rollers to detonate mines ahead of advancing troops. Limited success and mechanical strain restricted widespread use. Minenräumwagen was an experimental mine-clearing vehicle with massive wheels. Designed to survive mine explosions, it proved impractical. The project was abandoned before combat deployment. Flammpanzer II was a flame-throwing tank variant used against fortifications and infantry. It saw limited service early in the war. Short range and vulnerability reduced effectiveness. Flammpanzer III mounted flamethrowers on a medium tank chassis. It was used in close combat and urban fighting. Specialized role and high risk limited its use. Panzer 38T was a flame-throwing vehicle based on the Czech chassis. It supported infantry assaults against fortified positions. Light armor exposed it to enemy fire. Specialized and experimental vehicles, Sturmtiger was a heavy assault vehicle armed with a massive rocket mortar. It was intended for destroying bunkers and urban strongpoints. Extreme firepower was offset by limited ammunition, short range, and low production numbers. Goliath was a small remote-controlled demolition vehicle carrying a large explosive charge. It was designed to destroy tanks, bridges, and fortifications. Slow speed and vulnerability to small arms fire reduced its effectiveness. WWII IV was a remote-controlled demolition vehicle larger than the Goliath. It carried explosives to targets and retreated before detonation. Mechanical complexity and battlefield vulnerability limited successful use. Panzer was a mysterious experimental vehicle with a spherical design. Its intended role remains unclear, possibly reconnaissance or observation. Only one example is known, captured by Soviet forces with no combat record. Landkreuzer P-1000 Ratte was a proposed super-heavy land cruiser armed with naval guns. Intended as a mobile fortress, it was never built. Enormous size and logistical impossibility kept it on paper only. Landkreuzer P-1500 Monster was an even larger conceptual design, mounting a siege gun. It required unrealistic resources and infrastructure. The project highlighted the impractical extremes of late-war planning. Leichter Waffenträger was an experimental light weapons carrier designed to mount heavy guns on a mobile chassis. It aimed to simplify production. Development never reached operational deployment. Schwere Waffenträger was a heavier variant intended to carry large anti-tank guns. It was designed for ambush tactics and mobility. The project remained experimental and never entered service. VK-1602 Leopard was a prototype reconnaissance tank combining speed and armor. Intended to replace armored cars, it proved too heavy for its role. Development was cancelled before production. German ground vehicles of World War II reflect both innovation and limitation. Early designs supported rapid offensives, while later vehicles grew heavier and more complex to counter. Allied strength. Despite technical achievements, shortages, reliability issues, and industrial strain ultimately limited their impact on the war's outcome.